Are you looking for a gift for someone that recently had a baby, or maybe you have an embroidery business and you'd like to add some new items? In today's video, I'm going to use this baby onesie and I'm going to embroider on it a design that I found in Creative Fabrica. Now that design says My First Christmas and it's an applique design, so I also have this fabric. It has little snowflakes on it. This is going to take a lot of materials. Instead of going through them one by one right now, during the video, I'll talk about each one. This project could be done on a single needle, but in today's video, I'm going to use my Smartstitch 15 needle machine. Let's start by hooping it up, and then we'll stitch it out. Here's the baby onesie that I'm going to use today, and this is a 6 to 9 month baby onesie. But I did a 3 to 6 month baby onesie, and this 5.5 inch by 5.5 inch mighty hoop fit in it beautifully. There's no stretching at all. For the inside of this, I'm going to use this no-show mesh stabilizer. I love to use this stabilizer when I'm doing t-shirts, sweatshirts, things like that. It is soft and it's very drapey. So if you've ever done a t-shirt using that hard, stiff cutaway stabilizer, sometimes you get kind of a boxy feel below your shirt. So we're going to use this. This is also cutaway. Now, to stabilize my onesie, I'm going to use some basting spray. The reason I use the basting spray is that sticks it to the fabric, and then once you hoop the fabric, because it's stuck to it, it can't stretch. So I'm going to use 2 layers. I often use 2 layers of stabilizer on my multi-needle, and so we're going to start with just one. Let's go ahead and turn this right side out since we're going to stabilize it from the inside. And actually, give me a minute. Let's clean this with a lint roller. Okay, so the area where I'm going to embroider is clean. All right, so let's turn this right side out. Make sure that we're putting this on the front side of the baby onesie. I want to get it nice and smooth. And then I'm going to spray one of these pieces of stabilizer with this basting spray. Now this is a temporary bond, so once you're done, you can pull the excess away and trim it off. I like to hold it over a cardboard box or my trash can so that the overspray goes into that cardboard box or my trash can. So give me just a minute to do that. And it really doesn't take a ton of the spray. So the spray's on this side. We're going to flip it over, and then we're going to press it down on this baby onesie. And I want to make sure that it is covering the entire area that's going to get hooped. Now when I use this and a second piece of stabilizer on an adult t-shirt, I only baste this piece to it, and I just lay this inside. Well, with baby onesies, they're pretty small, so if you're trying to get this up in there and you're trying to put another piece of stabilizer, it gets a little bunchy. So in this case, unlike usual, I'm going to go ahead and spray this second piece of stabilizer. And again, that is simply because this is a tight space to try to work in, and I don't want to fight with my stabilizer. Now once I put the basting spray on it and I press down really hard, I like to give it a minute or two to kind of dry. I feel like it gets less disturbed when you give it that time. Okay, I think I gave that enough time that it could set up. So very carefully, we're going to flip this back right side out. Get it nice and smoothed out. And I think that looks really good. If you need to iron your baby onesie, you can do that as well. But when I put the basting spray on that stabilizer and really smooth it out, it gives it a really smooth finish. So in this case, I don't need to iron. Now I want to hoop this end of the baby onesie on my multi-needle. So we'll just have to remember that when it's time to put the design on the Smartstitch. I don't want to accidentally stitch it upside down. So I'm going to go ahead and feed this into the baby onesie under those pieces of stabilizer. And let's see, let's make sure it's pretty straight. And it's a little bit high. Let's move it down just a tiny bit. That looks good. The stabilizer covers the entire frame. Let me just look up here and make sure. Yep, that looks good. So now with these mighty hoops, I'm just going to grab it by the two handles, and that's all you have to do. And look how smooth that looks. Let's look at the inside too. That looks really good. Now these mighty hoops were quite an investment, but I love these and I'm glad I bought them. Now let's make sure that's straight enough. I think it is. I think that's going to be fine. Let's go ahead and put this on the machine. Now I wanted to show you this step by step, so I haven't even turned the machine on. Let's go ahead and flip this switch on back here. I'm going to go ahead and confirm to put the frame in the origin recovery. And then I need to find my design. To do that, I'm going to click right here on this little file folder. It's right here, so I'll touch it. And then I'm going to click on this flower. Now remember, we need to stitch this upside down. So I'm going to click on this F. It says direction there in case you can't see that. I'll click on the F. And I'll keep clicking until it's upside down, like that right there. All right, let's go ahead and hit the check mark. Now let's check the colors of the design. Now I like all those colors except this is going on a white onesie. So where it says my and first, I need to change those. So the first stitch is just a placement stitch. That's going to be in black. The second stitch is the tack down stitch. That's in white. The third stitch is a satin border stitch. That's in black. The next thing I believe is the hat. Yes, so I have the main part of the hat in red. And then I have this part of the hat and this part of the hat in white. Now let's see what this black is. Okay, so there is a line that goes around the hat and has some stitches in the hat. I'm going to outline the hat in black. So let's go to the next one, and that is the word my, and I want that to be green. So I'm going to click on my number 6. Now it moved on over to the next one. That's first. Let's click green. And then Christmas, I'm going to stick with red. So now I'm just going to click the check mark because I'm happy with those colors. Now let's find the hoop that I want. So you click right here on this frame icon. Then I'm going to go to select frame. And by frame, they mean hoop. Let's page down. And here's my 5.5 by 5.5 right there. Now there was no beep when I did that, but I can see the red line around that. So I'll click the check mark. And yes, I want to change the embroidery frame. All right, you can see because it's a white background that it all fits in there nicely. If the design was too large, the background would be a bright red or a dark red. So I'm going to hit the back button. Then I need to change this from the preparation status basically to the embroidery status. To do that, I click right here on the pink and it says change to embroidery confirmation status and I hit the green check mark. One thing that I did before I got started is I made sure I had enough bobbin. It was getting pretty low, so I put a new bobbin in. Now let's go ahead and hoop this on here. And I want to put the opening in the baby onesie over this area right here. So let me make sure that's really hanging down. I don't want to stitch the front to the back on accident, which I have done before when it flipped up. Now we're just going to press this all the way in till it clicks. And I'm just looking inside here to make sure it looks good. And it does. So I'm going to go ahead and push the start button And the first stitch that we'll do is that placement stitch. Now I have my machine set to stop between each color of thread. So let's go ahead and press start. I like my placement file to be a contrasting color so it's easy to see. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put this piece of fabric down. Now this fabric has Heat and Bond Light on the back. Let me show you the package for that. Heat and Bond Light. My machine really likes the Heat and Bond Light, and it is considered sewable. Let's go ahead and place this down. And I want to try to get some of the cute little snowflakes in the design. Okay, we're going to try it right there. Now I could tape this down with some painter's tape, but I often just use a chopstick to hold it down while it gets started. So let's go ahead and do the tack down stitch. Now I didn't really talk about why I have that Heat and Bond Light on the back. Basically what it is for is so that when you're done with everything, you can press it down and that helps hold the fabric in place. It's less likely to come out from under those stitches. So I'm going to use some applique scissors. I'll take my hoop off the machine. Now I'm not going to unhoop the baby onesie, but I'll take the hoop off the machine. I'll trim that excess fabric away and then I'll be right back. Here's what it looks like after I trimmed it down, and hopefully I have it trimmed close enough that that fabric doesn't show outside the satin stitch. This doesn't have a super thick satin stitch, so I hope it's covered. All right, remember we need to flip this upside down, place it over this bar. Let's check inside, make sure that it really is under the bar and not flipped up. I think that feels good, so we'll push it into place. I also just like to get a visual, so I bent down and looked inside there. Everything looks great. So let's go ahead and do that satin stitch. Remember, it's going to be black. After that last stitch, I moved my camera and lights from my YouTube Live. When I was done with it and moved them back, I really had a ton of glare. So we're going to skip to the end of the stitch out, then we'll meet back up at the table. Now some of the stitches on these next layers are pretty thin, and so I'm going to put some water-soluble topper on top to keep them up on top of the fabric. And I think I'll go ahead and tape this here to the front. And then I'll tape it to the back side of the hoop as well. If you haven't used water-soluble stabilizer before, it is a topper that's just going to help those stitches stay up on top. They're not going to dig down into your fabric like they can do. Once we're done, you just peel the excess off the top. It's really easy to work with. Now we're getting ready for the word Christmas. This is the last stitch. All right, let's go ahead and take this off, see what it looks like. It's kind of hard to see now, but let's go over to the table. We'll get this topper off. It looks like I have a little bit of an area that I'd like to use a little bit of fabric paint. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. One thing that jumps out to me is we have a couple of jump stitches we're going to have to deal with. I'm not really used to that because the machine cuts jump stitches. Maybe it has to do with the design. And then it looks like it's a little bit, I don't know, sparse there. I'm not sure what happened. But I do have some fabric pins. So let's see if we have one that's about the color of that stitching. I think I'll start kind of light. Let's see how this is. And when I use these, which I don't use them that often, but with the water-soluble topper on there, it's going to be a little bit easier because it's going to protect the fabric. So let's dab a little bit right there. I don't think I like that color. Let's try this color. That color's pretty dark. I am not thrilled with this stitch out. I don't like all the jump stitches in there, but it's not terrible. It's not terrible. But let's go ahead and unhoop this. The stitching looks good from the inside. Now we're going to pull away this water-soluble stabilizer. You can pull a lot of this away with your first pull, but you are going to have to get some tweezers and get some of those inside pieces out. I have most of those out, but little bits and pieces that are left in there, I can get a damp rag and just kind of wipe them away. Now, somebody told me you could use a pencil eraser. I haven't tried it, so for now I'll just stick to the damp rag. Let me know if you've tried a pencil eraser. Now I've cleaned up some of the jump stitches and things like that, so now what I want to do is kind of peel this away. Remember, we used that basting spray, which was a temporary bond. And then I'm going to trim up somewhat close to my design. After that, we're going to add some Tender Touch. This Tender Touch by Sulky, it just adds a nice smooth finish that's going to be up against the baby's skin. So let me cut this out. Now one side is smooth and one side is slightly coarse, and that coarse side goes down against your fabric, so the smooth side's against the baby's skin. Your basic iron is fine. I do have this little X-Tool mini iron, and the instructions say for best results, have it at 250 to 207 degrees Fahrenheit. It says that's the wool setting on most irons. Then it says to press it for 10 to 15 seconds until fused. I'm going to go ahead and put this little pressing pad under it. And then I'm going to use a piece of parchment paper as well. So let's go ahead and press this on. I'm going to start with 10 seconds. Okay, let's see if that did the job. And I can tell it did. So I'm going to go ahead and press this whole thing, each area about 10 seconds. That looks good and it feels good. So now let's go ahead and flip this right side out. And I want to go ahead and put one more press right on top of that one. So I make sure that heat and bond really bonded nicely. Then I have a few jump stitches to trim up and then I'm done. As I was cutting the jump stitches out of this black stitching that's in the middle of this white puffy part of the hat, I was thinking, if I make this again, I'm taking these black stitches out. They really didn't add much and they were a pain to deal with. So here's the final project. Despite a few flaws, I think it turned out really, really cute. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until my next video, bye-bye.